thought we nailed our first Airbnb setup. The photos looked great, the vibe was perfect, and then the reviews started rolling in. Turns out that great design means nothing if the property is not comfortable and if things don't really work, the function is just not in place. And in this video, we're breaking down the setup mistakes that almost ruined our Airbnb business even before we really got started. We're sharing these examples so you don't make the same mistakes that we did. So if you're new here, I'm Seth, and my partner William and I have been hosting Airbnb for almost a decade. And over that time, we've hosted over 10,000 guests. We've earned over 3,000 five-star reviews. And when we just got started, we made only a few $100s a month. But in 2025, we're slated to clear our first $1 million in revenue. And along the way, we've made some very expensive mistakes. We made some mistakes that almost completely ruined our Airbnb business. And we're sharing these examples. We're putting together this video, sharing some of the examples that we learned from along the way to help you make better choices as you're setting up your Airbnb. This video is what we wish we had when we were just getting started. So the first setup mistake is that we designed for what the property looked like, not how the property functioned. And so some of the examples that we looked at in trying to set up our Airbnbs, that we just went around and looked online to see like what were other hosts doing. And so while our property may have looked great, things simply didn't work. The couches were a little bit uncomfortable. The kitchen wasn't fully stocked. We had no outdoor amenities. And so we had to take a step back and think about what were guests trying to tell us in the reviews? What did they actually want to see in our properties? And we had to not get offended. We had to look at those reviews and made better choices. And so slowly we started addressing some of those concerns. With each of the changes that we made, we saw the reviews start going up. And so that just told us that addressing these concerns is actually going to help boost our reviews, which in turn also boost our revenue. But before moving on to the next step, I want to make step one even easier. I want to encourage you to download the free Airbnb profit map. It walks you through how to choose the right city, avoid costly red flags, and find areas with high demand even before you spend $1. You can grab it down below. Now on to step two, skipping a welcome experience. So when we launched our Airbnb, we put together what we thought was going to be a pretty good welcome guide, a booklet that helped to answer some of the most common questions that we heard from guests so far in our hosting journey. What we found out is that the guide that we put together didn't really answer the questions that guests truly had. And so what resulted was guests would still reach out to us even after they looked at the guide. They still had quite a bit of questions. And so we had to listen to those questions and then go back and make changes to the guide to try to not just address the questions, but organize the information in such a way that guests were able to easily find answers to the questions that they had. So we used a manual messaging system where we simply just responded to guests. When they send us a message, we would respond back. And if you can imagine, sometimes these messages are coming in moments where you might be on the way to dropping the kids off to school or making dinner or working in the yard. And so as a result of that, our communication was not consistent. We would sometimes not be as clear as we wanted to be in how we communicated with guests. And so we had to do some research to find an automated guest messaging system that allowed us to think through the messages, because what happens is most guests are asking very similar questions. And because the questions were somewhat standard, we could actually take a step back, think through the responses, automate the responses so that we're clear and consistent in our guest communication. And once we did that, that helped a lot. We also didn't really have snacks set up for guests when they were coming in. Sometimes, you're coming in late at night. Sometimes restaurants are closed. So having a nice little snack pack seems like a very small thing, but guests rant and rave at having this in our Airbnb. We also didn't offer coffee service or some of those things that guests come to expect and actually respond well to. And so once we addressed those items, we noticed that our reviews skyrocketed, and by extension, our revenue also skyrocketed. So the point here is you want to automate your messages, put together a nice little snack pack for guests. Really think about the guest experience from the time that they reach out to you, to the time that they arrive at your property, to the time that they check out. So the third mistake that we made is that we chose very poor furniture. When we were just getting started, we simply didn't have any money. So we had to kind of use the things that we had. So some of the furniture that we used were pretty cheap. We went to places like IKEA and other box stores and just bought the furniture that we could afford. We also went to thrift stores and things like that and bought furniture that we simply could afford. And it turns out in some of those cases, again, the things look great, but some of the furniture simply did not hold up. After a few months, the bed started falling apart, and we found ourselves in a situation where we were either making constant repairs or replacement. So we had to take a step back and look at what are the things that are really durable. You need a really solid bed. You need solid chairs. You need a solid dining table. We had to think about things that really look great in a photo and in the actual physical space, but also things that were going to hold up over time. Because what we found was that while you could buy a cheap couch or a cheap dining room chair, when those items break, ultimately it's going to cost you more to constantly replace those items. So the point here is, y'all, invest in durable essentials. We know sometimes that could be a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, it's going to pay off. So if you're interested in skipping the trial and error and getting it right from day one, you can download the Airbnb setup guide. It is a complete room by room list of the exact items, y'all. These are the things that we use in our 12 Airbnbs. So it helps you launch fast and help you launch smart. So stay guest ready, avoid some of those mistakes, and grab the Airbnb setup guide down below. And so the fourth mistake that we made is that we had no smart tech item or tech systems in our Airbnb. Admittedly, a decade ago, some of these things really did not exist. And so as we started our Airbnb and started experiencing some of those challenges, naturally, that motivated us to try to find some of the tools to address those challenges. One of the biggest challenges that we needed to address was how to get guests in and out of the property without the use of physical keys. And we've tried about a dozen smart locks before we settled on the one that we're currently using and have been using for the past several years. So manual keys created confusion. You know, sometimes folks are coming to our Airbnb, they're coming to really enjoy a night on the town, a weekend in the city. And so manual keys sometimes got lost. There have been a few moments where we had to actually rekey the front door because the guests lost the keys. And so naturally, we were highly motivated to try to figure out how to not have physical keys. And so a smart lock was a great way to solve that problem. So the fix is to use a smart lock that allows you to get guests in and out of the property without the need for physical keys. No need to actually worry about rekeying a property if a guest loses the keys. And in this way, guests can come in whenever they want to. If they're arriving late, no problem. They get the instructions through automated messaging and they can just follow the instructions, check themselves in, and no problem, no fuss. And the fifth mistake that we made is that we had inconsistent setup across each of our listings, or sometimes even at the very same listing. We primarily specialize in large homes that can host groups of 10 or more people. And so what we did when we first started was each of the bedrooms sometimes had different bedding, different artwork, different experiences, because we thought we wanted to create something truly unique and we wanted every guest to feel special. And so our motivation was to say, well, maybe we'll make each of the rooms unique. What we found was that made it difficult to operate the business. And so inconsistency meant that you couldn't actually use the same sheets, each of the rooms in each of your listings. Inconsistency meant that you also had different vendors that you were sourcing all these items from. And so what we had to do here is we had to just standardize everything. We standardized the bedding. We standardized the plates that we use in the kitchen. We use the same pots. We use the same coffee maker. Standardization allowed us to just take away the fuss of what it means to consistently operate this business. So the fix here is get standardized and will save you a lot of trouble in operating this business. So now you know the mistakes, but do you know how exactly to get your first 5-star review? You want to watch this next video to find out exactly what make guests rave about your property and how you can actually replicate these practices in your own listings.